So when it comes to the 5% Club, I think we were probably one of the first kind of commentators within the marketing industry to talk about Madison Avenue, for want of a better word, behaving more like Silicon Valley. And that is basically that whole kind of fail forward fast culture that's become a bit of a cliche now. But as I say, we were talking about this way back in kind of 2005, 2006. And what we meant by the 5% Club was, as a brand, just take a little bit of risk. Just take, it doesn't have to be 5%, but that was it felt like a good number. But like say 5% of your media budget, your production budget, your award show budget, your Christmas party, whatever it is, literally just spend a little bit of money testing, doing things you wouldn't normally do. That might mean collaborating with a startup, trying to create a new kind of service or tool or some sort of new creative idea that you haven't done before. If it works, you scale it up. If it doesn't work, you haven't kind of bet the farm on it, you haven't lost too much. But we just felt that, the way that consumers were sort of moving away from traditional advertising, they were creating their own content, they were sort of like, almost bypassing branded content to a large extent in the new age of blogs and smart mobile and so on. So we felt this was a really good example of where brands could just start to experiment and get into some quite interesting places.
Yeah, and we've seen over the years lots of different models for this type of thing. Google had their 20% time. We've seen lots of sort of skunk works or set apart labs that are almost like siloed innovation teams. We've seen other organizations bring those those kind of camps or labs back into the broader organization. We're not dogmatic about how it happens, right? It doesn't matter. For some organizations, it might make sense to have a separate team in a separate building. For others, it might be just about engendering this idea of taking some risk and putting some resource behind it. The important thing is that you're testing, that you're trying new things, that way when something does become bigger, you're not left behind. You've already had some time to test and prod and see what works for your brand. I think, we talk about a couple examples in the book.
Yeah.
One example that I think is really compelling is from Johnny Walker Whiskey, where they actually tested out on Indiegogo this idea of a personalized whiskey bottle, where you could actually invest and back this project and get a personalized whiskey based on your own taste in whiskey. And it failed. They didn't get enough money to get it off the ground. And I think for us, it's a great example of a brand testing and trying something and it not working, but they didn't spend very much money to do it. They kind of put their foot in and said, okay, well, it's not actually going to work, so we're going to back off on that. But keep testing those kind of ideas, and some of them will hit and some of them will be a success.
Yeah, and in contrast to that, another case that we look at in the book is from Ford, an idea they tried in Spain. And again, came from an agency. And again, a lot of the stuff in the book shows that from an advertising agency point of view, the role of an agency is becoming increasingly complex and challenging, but also very exciting because it takes you up into all kinds of new areas like product creation and IP and so on. And so the insight around that Ford had when they're trying to sell their kind of family kind of focus cars was that young children, and I've had this myself with our kids, is that they won't fall asleep at home in their quiet bedroom and cot and so on. What they will fall asleep in is when you're driving. So Ford hit on this insight where they could actually create a crib that was branded and designed beautifully as a Ford product that would mimic the sensation of driving and the light that you get as again, what helps kids go to sleep is that the passing light. But also you could add layers to it, so your voices, the children's favourite songs and so on. So you get this beautiful device that mimics kind of a car so children can sleep in a crib. But the only way you could get access to it was by booking a test drive with Ford. We thought that was a really good example, and it's gone to the point where so many people wanted it that it's now available on the website as a product. So again, from 5% thinking, you've got something you can scale up and it becomes a piece of IP and a profit center.